Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Bani and Maria. We're glad to have you here. And you know, Bani, this week after our last week's session and we were talking about being present, I could not stop thinking about a time that I experienced that very early on in my business. And it just kept coming up for me, and I thought that it would be a great thing to share with you all, and you too. I don't know if you heard this story or not, but so early on in my business, I would say about 3.5 years ago, I was building my core leadership, building my executive coaching business. And I remember sitting at the computer, and if you know anything about sales, I came from a sales background, so I was hitting the pavement and on my computer and finding businesses I wanted to work with and cold calling and all this really external activity, so to speak. And I remember sitting there one day, and this thought popped into my mind as I was striving and striving, and I got this little voice in my head that said, just go breathe. And it was the coolest thing because I had just started to get involved I had just started reading about like meditation and mindfulness. I hadn't really started practicing it yet. But the thought popped in, and I said, you know what, that's just going and sitting on the couch right now and breathing seems like a really good idea, because I had just been so exhausted with activity. And when I did, I went over to the couch, I sat down, I just focused on like 2 or 3 breaths. And that calming feeling, I got this idea that popped into my mind. And the idea was that I had been to a conference the week before and had really enjoyed this one speaker. And the idea that came in was, you know what, write a thank you note to that speaker and just tell her how much you enjoyed her presentation and how you really valued it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's odd, but I don't know her at all, but I'll give it a try, I'll give it a shot. And found her online, sent an email out, just said, with no attachment to any business, nothing, just, you know what? I enjoyed your presentation. I really love what you said. I love the culture you're building in your company. Just wanted to let you know I was there and I really appreciate it. And like a week later, her HR director called me and asked to meet with me to do some business for some leadership development and coaching within their business.
Oh my gosh.
And it turned into 2+ years of business.
Oh my gosh.
And, for me back then, that was my very first experience with that. I don't have to go out and strive and go outside of myself all the time to build a business. I can connect to who I am and what's my way, right? What can I do? What are some ideas that I can come up with? It was almost like asking myself that open-ended question of, what can I do, right? This isn't feeling good, this striving piece. What can I do to build my business? And allowing myself to be present with me in that moment allowed for that idea to come to the surface, and it was very, very fruitful. And I think that when you and I started working together, you shared with me some like scientific reasons why that comes about. And I think it would be really helpful for our audience to understand like what happened in that process.
Yeah. Well, when I think about when you first described how you're sitting on the computer and you're trying to get more business and you're trying to grow your business, so that itself is coming from a place of lack. Like basically the message inside is, I don't have enough business, I need to get more business. And even saying that myself, I can feel like I just had muscle that 10 step right in my shoulders and arms and my whole core. So even the thought of, it doesn't even have to do with me, it has to do with somebody else. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough, I need more business, which that appeals to our livelihood, our like putting food in our mouth or on the table. So the fight or flight response gets induced. And all of a sudden when the fight or flight response gets induced, the whole prefrontal cortex of the brain shuts down because it's not time to come up with creative ideas. Then you have to fight for your survival, basically. Or so that fight or flight response is either to do with a lack of something, like, am I going to have enough food to survive, or an attack that someone's going to attack you. At this point, it was a lack of not having enough, which would mean a person would need to scramble to like find enough food. Now, in our society and in the line of business you're in, that isn't serving you well. you needed a creative idea. Well, if we're in fight or flight, it's no time to get creative. We've got to like just go find some food to eat and forage, for something. So, and then when you stepped away, somehow you had that feeling deep down inside, just step away from it, just get away from it. This inner guidance was coming up. You just sat down. As soon as you sat and took those few deep breaths, really what was happening was, just breathing slowly, all of a sudden a different message goes to the brain. Oh, she's breathing slowly and deeply. Everything must be okay. I can actually turn this part of the brain back on. So that part of the brain came back on. You said you were kind of just connecting to your breath and your heart area, and something came to you of, to write a thank you note to someone. Now, you might have, good thing you followed through with that, because a lot of times what happens, a person gets that message, oh, I'm going to go write this thank you. It's like, no, I don't have time for thank you notes. I've got to go find business. But the good thing, you followed through with that guidance to write that thank you note, and it turned into something so fruitful.
Yeah, right. And, I think it came down to me I had to trust it, right?
Yeah.
As strange as it sounded and felt, I was like, okay, this is odd. Like that my first inclination was, oh, that was odd. And then I thought, you know what? I intentionally stepped away from the computer for the reason of, what can I do? I don't want to do this anymore. What can I do? And then that idea came. So I had to allow myself to trust it.
And you did trust your gut too, because you said you were at the computer and you were feeling like, it's just not feeling right.
It didn't feel
like
good.
All of a sudden when the gut gives us that message, like, there's just something not right about what I'm doing right now. Like, this is we feel like we're on the treadmill, we're running, we're spinning our wheels. We use those figures of speech to say that we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So you trusted your gut was telling you, sometimes it'll kind of turn or feel almost nauseous when we're doing something that's really unproductive and going anywhere. So you trusted your gut.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing is that was 3.5 years ago. And in my practice now, I'm able to do it a lot easier, right? Yeah. Back then, it was still felt a little wobbly. Now it's become part of who I am, right? To be able to do that. And you can do this too, right? When you feel like you're striving or you're just you're not getting those creative ideas, or you're feeling like you're stuck. I mean, that was really what it was. I felt stuck, that awful feeling. Just step away. Right? Just step away, take the time to connect to yourself, trust yourself, and know that everything will be okay, right? And the ideas will come. So we appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.